Hello, everybody, and welcome. All thanks to LD Mobile. This is NBL Overtime. Hashtag NBL Overtime. Plenty to get into. Homicide, Liam Santamaria, Daniel Johnson, a superstar from the 36ers. Some great news. We're going to get to all those boys soon. I'll start with you, though. Homicide, you got 5 seconds or less. How's the Rolls Royce?
Oh, it's okay. It's not bad. I mean, it's not mine, but it was just a prop in a video that I was shooting. Not a bad whip at all. But it's very, very sensitive. Like, if I was a multimillionaire, I wouldn't want to own a Rolls Royce because you drive it around because you do not want it to get wrecked because you know it's so expensive to find parts or, get it fixed. It was just a sensitive ride. I wouldn't recommend anybody buying one.
Stuff I never thought we'd talk about, Liam.
Take out the words Rolls Royce and insert the words Bryce Cotton, and that's Corey during the 2019 NBL season.
A heap to get into, but you know what we're going to do? Because I know you've got an idea you want to get to us very soon, Liam. I'm going to hold that because we are joined off the top by the superstar from the Adelaide 36ers and made 36ers fans. We're all going through this tough time at the moment, but they were giddy with excitement last week, the announcement that the 3-year extension for big Daniel Johnson had been announced, signed, and all the rest of it. Hey, mate, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Hey, I'll tell you what, I'm sure you've been working on it with your management and the team for a while, but interesting timing, great timing, but to be able to make these decisions and have these conversations in such a weird time, what was it like?
I mean, it was difficult, obviously, with the news from the NBL, with all the budget cuts and everything like that, and the uncertainty everywhere with leagues, not just here but around the world. It was obviously a good time to get some security, and we've been discussing it, even towards the end of last season anyway. So I was just happy to finally get it done.
That exactly was going to be my question. How long was this process? Because there's no way just all of a sudden an offer for a 3-year contract just jumps on the table. How long was this process? When did it begin? And why the 3-year deal? Why now, outside of security? Do you see yourself signing and going off in the sunset with the 36ers?
Yeah, I mean, we started talking towards the end of last season. Obviously I've been here a while now and, very happy here. And, I think with the coaching situation where we had the change of the coach, that was put on hold for a while. And then obviously with all the Corona stuff that's been going on, it's been a bit crazy for the club. So yeah, it was a long process, but, very happy to get it done. And like I said, the security was the main thing for me. Just knowing where I was going to be at. I mean, I don't know how I'll be feeling in 3 years, but I'm hoping I can keep going. But we'll see how we go.
DJ, it's no accident that the extension has landed at the exact same time as the opt-out deadline, right? There were renegotiations that took place there. And part of that, no doubt, was you and your management saying, look, we have the opportunity to opt out and explore overseas. How seriously were you looking at that opportunity and what might present itself overseas?
I was looking pretty seriously, to be honest. Obviously, I've had a few short stints over there over the years, and I was considering it. Obviously, it's a tough time everywhere, though, and there's uncertainty, not just here but overseas. So it would have been a pretty big risk to opt out and wait for those overseas jobs to come around. So it just seemed like a safe option, and like I said, I was really happy here. So I'm very happy to have done it.
Despite the turmoil and how the season ended and everything that came out, all the negative press and media, what was your relationship individually with Joey Wright like?
I worked with Joey for 7 years, I think. So, I learned a lot from him. He brought the best out of me, and, I enjoyed working with him. There was obviously moments where we didn't agree on things, which I think every player has with their coach from time to time, but I'm grateful for what he did for me and the club while he was here. But at the same time, I'm excited to bring in Conor Henry and learn from him. I think he's got a lot of stuff he could teach us and bring to the club, and I'm excited for that.
You touched on that, DJ, and we look towards Conor Henry back into the league, bit of a different approach from being overseas for the better part of the last decade. Josh Giddey, of course, the next star who signed on it well. So it's going to be a freshening up. Not saying it was bad in the past, but it's going to be a different look 36ers going into the new year. Does that refresh you a little bit as well when you have a change? You've been there for so long, but there are changes from different approaches?
Yeah, I think so. just hearing a different voice every day, I think sometimes is a good thing. Obviously, Connor's got a lot of experience coaching and playing, which I'm excited to learn from. Bringing in Josh, who's going to be, a lot of youth there. We haven't finished our roster yet, but I'm excited for this next season and getting back into it.
Here's my question. So actually, go ahead, Liam. You go. I give you a chance to go.
If I take your question, I'm sorry.
If you take my question without knowing you took it, I'm just walking out the screen, man.
Oh. DJ, how do you take the next step? You've been at the 36ers for a while now, two grand final appearances, no championships. I feel like if this team's going to win a championship while you're there as a friend, like as a cornerstone piece, you need to go from where you are, which is already at a star level, to have a season where you go to another level. I think about Dirk Nowitzki in 2011, where he had that MVP campaign and they got the championship. How do you take that step?
I think it's just, continuing to put the work in. I think I work pretty hard myself on my deficiencies. Obviously defense has been one of them over the years. So making sure I'm better at that end of the court, becoming a better leader, I think is also a big thing for me. So those are things that I'm trying to work on and be better. Obviously Coach Henry coming in, he's a defensive minded coach, which I'm hoping really helps my game go to that other level that you're talking about. But on that, we just need, everyone around me to be playing hard and doing our roles. I think if we have a team full of guys that are willing to work hard and do it every night, that's going to, hopefully take us to that next level.
You've been in this league a long time. You've been a star in this league in a long time. Been one of the top, if not the top center in this league for a long time. How do you feel being snubbed a lot of the times as a Boomer?
At the beginning, it was frustrating, I think. Obviously, I wanted to be a part of that, and it was something that I aspired to do, especially seeing guys around me that I got along with well and that I wanted to be teammates with on that well, at least the qualifying teams, I think. So it was definitely frustrating. Over the years, I kind of just stopped expecting my name to be called out and just kind of accepted it, I guess. To finally break through was great and something I'm very proud of. But the whole experience, wasn't ideal for me personally, I think.
Daniel Johnson joins us on NBL Overtime, 3-year extension announced last week. Hey, you mentioned weird times. We're all stay at home and you're in different states to where we are, and it's been a little bit different restrictions around the country. But how are you holding up? How you doing? Have you got a hoop? We asked Mitch McCarron and Mitch Creek this last week. You got a hoop at your house? Have you been able to get a couple of shots up? How's it all worked?
It hasn't been too different. Obviously, shooting outside's been the main challenge. We've been trying out all the hoops around Adelaide, and we finally found one that goes pretty well, so we're happy about that. And then just obviously the weights is the other thing, just trying to find a place to kind of lift. So we've been lucky enough to lift in our strength coach's shed for a bit, which has been good. But we're just adjusting. Like, it's not too different to what I'd normally be doing, so I'm pretty lucky from that standpoint.
DJ, you mentioned earlier when you're talking about the decision to sign the extension, that you're happy in Adelaide and you feel comfortable there. And a few years ago when you were coming out of contract, you were poised to be probably the hottest free agent commodity, and you signed a new extension before free agency opened. Why haven't you taken that opportunity to explore free agency at all? Get some offers from some other teams. What is it about the 36ers and the setup there that makes you re-sign ahead of time each time?
They are paying him a boatload of cash. That's what it comes down to, man.
Come on.
The man has not left South Australia since he got there.
Is it that simple?
No, it's never that simple. They've looked after me, don't get me wrong, but like I said, I'm happy here. My wife's from here. She's very happy here. And, I decided pretty early on that Adelaide's where I wanted to be if I was in Australia, and it's worked out well for me. I've really enjoyed my time here, and like I said, the club's always been good to me and kind of come to the table with what I've asked, so I've been very fortunate.
Yeah, you were right, Corey.
Cash. It's normally cash or love, and
in this case, it's both.
Australia. Hey. A little bit of both. Hey, either way, Adelaide 36ers fans, City of Adelaide, everyone involved in the 36er organisation are stoked. And of course, while last year win-loss and no finals for the 36ers, playing in the new gym, packed out almost every week, while there were some negatives later in the year, there was a great deal of positives around the club and the city of basketball as well. So it's a good place to continue to play your ball.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I mean, I think, like you mentioned, the move to the new stadium's been massive for the club, and I think we had some of our best crowds last year. So, yeah, I'm hoping we can keep moving forward with that, get some really good players in here this year and hope to contend.
You get in people's ear now, of course. Free agency is still, a little while away, but there's a couple of guys actually who are exploring options from your side that might be looking elsewhere. Have you been able to get a couple of text messages in a conversation to try and convince them to stay with you?
I've been trying my best, but I don't have too much pull. Yeah, I mean, I'm confident we're going to get a good team in here. I'm hoping we get our imports right this year and have some really quality guys there, and obviously a couple more Australians as well. So, yeah, I'm excited for it.
Who takes the next step for you guys this year? Because you do actually have quite a number of guys already contracted.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously Josh Giddey's going to be the big one for us, I think, coming in, seeing where he's at. I think, they're expecting him to have a big role in the group, which I'm excited about. Obviously, Obi Chai is going to step up and play more minutes. And I think even Dan Dillon's going to have a bigger role this season than he did last year. I think he can really help us out a lot on both ends of the court. So, yeah, I'm excited for all three of those guys.
Well, colour hair, Jack McVeigh rolling with in isolation. I haven't seen much of him in the last couple of weeks on social media. What's he got at the moment?
Jack's pretty normal at the moment.
That won't last.
No, it won't last. But no, he's probably the hardest worker on the team. So I should have mentioned him before. He's going to, step it up and get more minutes this year and definitely show the league what he's capable of.
Mate, we congratulate you. 3-year extension, very well deserved, of course, and a big part of that Adelaide resurgence into NBL 21 will be on to be your back, mate. So thanks for dropping in, saying g'day, and stay safe over the next couple of months. And looking forward to getting back on the court officially.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Don't stop, 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 don't stop.
Big DJ, 3-year extension. Good news for the Adelaide 36ers and the NBL, obviously, with the big fella hanging around into NBL 21 and beyond. All right, we're going to talk about the Cairns Taipans, a slight dilemma they may have when it comes to their talented trio of imports. We're going to talk about building your NBL franchise from scratch. You can get involved anytime you like, hashtag NBL Overtime. But, boys, as we've been talking about, as everyone's been talking about, the last dance, 7 and 8 EPs. We teased, I think, next week. when the whole thing is done and dusted. But 7 and 8 episodes last night dropped in Australia. Homicide, you loving it still?
Definitely loving it. I think you could not have picked a better time to drop the documentary. It gives us all basketball heads and lovers and Jordan sneaker lovers. There's so many guys women and guys that bought these sneakers and never even saw him play. So it gives them insight on how mentally this guy went about his business. I just love the fact that how he destroyed LeBradford Smith after having the nerve to say to him, "Nice game, Mike." Knowing damn well you got him on a back-to-back. Are you kidding me? Gave him 36 and a half. I just love the way he was just a beast and he went about his business.
Honestly, I think LeBradford Smith comes out pretty well from last night's episodes. Did anyone remember that LeBradford Smith put 37 on MJ before last night? Now we all know his name, and he's on the tip of our tongue. They were great episodes. You know, something that jumped out to me from those episodes was that Bill Cartwright talking to Scottie Pippen in that locker room after that moment. And it made me think about the value of veteran heads like that on the bench. And it's something, you know, that NBA teams all know about, guys that can kind of mentor young star up-and-coming players. But in the NBL, those guys are so valuable because it's hard to pay a guy enough who's a veteran and been around the game and been successful to play a limited role like that. You think about Dave Anderson for Melbourne a couple of seasons ago and his influence with LaMelo Ball and that team last year. Guys like Greg Hire, Jesse Wagstaff in Perth, Mika Vukona right now with the Brisbane Bullets. So important to have those guys coming off your bench.
It is highlights for almost every minute through this whole documentary, but that last minute, maybe the last 30 seconds of episode 7 into the first 10 or 15 minutes of episode 8, which ends with the LeBradford Smith story and how that all played out is a highlight for mine. And to watch Jordan, like, I'm not sure if he was concerned how he was going to be perceived or viewed when people watch this as a bully, as a bad guy, as a bad teammate, whatever it might be. But to see him so emotional, he spoke about the tragic situation with his dad and was able to get through that fairly well considering the situation, and then to get to the heart and the crux of why he was the teammate and did and said the things he did, and to see him get emotional and just say break and just walk out of that chair, it was remarkable. And I was looking forward to how this is going to end in obviously 9 and 10. We know how it ends, I guess, from a perspective. I think George Karl is actually viewed a little bit worse last night. Gary Payton, and I like the reaction that Michael Jordan had when he's seen Gary Payton's comments, but to not have, and it's something that a lot of people would remember, not have Gary Payton, the defensive player of the year, go on Jordan from the opening tip. And I understand he's a little smaller, and I get the reasons as in what you would have found them, but I think looking back, probably something he would change.
I think I love the fact that how he went about his business. I think that if his teammates got tougher because of the way he went about it, outside of obviously punching Steve Kerr in the face, I don't have a problem with anything he did. You got to go through the fire. Nice guys finish last. He is the GOAT for a reason. At the end of the day, unless you've won like he won, you can't say none of that. You can't. He had to put those guys through the fire. You're playing to get the Knicks. What you think's going to happen? They're going to punk the hell out of you, and you're not prepared for it. Preparation is power. Then when you get in those situations, you're like, man, you can't fade me. That physical play is nothing compared to what I deal with Mike. This is easy, and we prevailed. And all of those guys had to make key shots, okay, to prevail. And that's why he did it. I'm not mad at none of that.
I think there's teammates in all sports or athletes in all sports that have similar traits. Maybe not to the extent to which Michael Jordan went about it. You boys played pro. Do you have one, Liam? Do you have a teammate that Victoria Titans year that was just all over your ass?
Actually, for me, it was the coach. It was Brian Goorjian.
No surprise.
You know, we talk about the GOAT, MJ. Well, Goorjian is the GOAT in terms of patrolling the sidelines in the NBL and across its history. And he approached practice with the trash talk and the competitiveness and that mindset in the same way as MJ did and as we saw on those episodes last night. He talked so much smack. And on the court, in the gym, no one talked more smack than Gorge in the gym. I remember when I joined the Titans, I really never lifted at all ever before. Bruce Gray, bruiser, hard work guy. And we're doing, first day, we're doing squats on the wobble board. Squats on the wobble board. I'm like, I'm in the terror dome here. I get on the wobble board. Bruce Gray puts a plate on each side, but no clips. Standing around is D-Mac, Tony Ronaldson, Jason Smith, all the stars, Chris Anstey and Gorge. I get on the wobble board. I go to do the squat, and I bent at the hips, and the plate around this side went smash. And then, of course,
plate on that.
Smash. Guys are jumping out of the way to protect their toes. I get off they get me off and out of the thing, and Gorge goes, Lim, because he couldn't say Liam, he couldn't get his mouth right. Lim, I was never as bad as you. And he just talked a lot of smack. Yeah. I remember he would have shootouts after practice where he would usually win. Really, the only person who beat Gorge was Jason Smith. And one time I was in a shootout with him after practice. All the stars are on the side taking their shoes and socks off and their tape off. And I just got lucky. I had my LeBradford Smith moment at practice that day. And I had shots going down, and guys were starting to get amped. Like Liam was about to beat Gorge, and I had a shot to win. I hit this. Everyone was standing up going crazy. Gorge goes, Lim, if you make this shot, I'll take a dump right here in the middle of the court. And the guys went nuts, and I got wobbly knees and airballed it, and Gorge won, and that was it. But he just talked a lot of smack for that same reason, Corey, about putting guys through the furnace to make sure in the heat of battle they were ready to go.
Hey, big shout out to anyone right now about to have dinner as well after that story took a dramatic turn. All right, let's get into some current day stuff. Plenty to get into. Let's start with the Illawarra Hawks. The NBL put out a statement in the last couple of days. Of course, we understand the financial situation in which the club and its last ownership administration found themselves in, but they're looking after the entitlements of all the players. But now we talk a little bit of on-court action because it now goes towards, one, finding the ownership, the new group, which is obviously into conversations and discussion right now. But there are three young pillars, young guys who right now had pretty good years in NBL 20, who are going to be out of contract. Now, they've been offered the same contract to go back to the Illawarra Hawks, but when I'm talking Sunday Deck, who was outstanding last year, Angus Glover, who represented Australia after all the issues he's had with his knees, and Big Sam Froling as well. There's going to be other clubs at least making calls at a very minimum. Liam, I'll start with you. Where did you see this with this talented trio ending?
It's an interesting spot for them because now they get the opportunity to explore free agency if they want it. The NBL is kind of in negotiations with them to bring them back on the same deal that they had for the NBL 21 season. But look, a guy like Sunday Deck perhaps didn't have the opportunity to explore free agency after impressing so much last season, a most improved player candidate in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. And he might be able to, find some bigger value on the free agency market. But then, of course, those guys have to weigh up minutes, opportunity. Are they going to get as much of that elsewhere? I think a guy like Angus Glover, he's a homegrown kid, and he's staring down the barrel of a much bigger role this season, one less import in the mix. So I imagine if I were him, I would probably re-sign and load up for a big year this year, but those other two guys might be very tempted to go out and see what's on offer.
I think Homicide, just on that, I don't think any of them, and I'll start with Sunday Deck, will get more opportunity in minutes, in particular in a starting two-guard situation, anywhere else in the league in NBL 21. Now, I'm not saying he won't play minutes. I'm not saying financially he won't get a little more cash somewhere else, although that's uncertain. But I think considering how many minutes he played last year and one less import, of course, which will play with Angus Glover as well. And maybe Froling, who had a pretty good year when he got his injuries under control and had a really good end to the year. I don't think any of these guys, although Froling, which I'll give an example later in the show, would play more minutes elsewhere. What do you think, Homicide?
I think Angus Glover stays, homegrown talent. He'll have a bigger role. I think Sunday Dead should go. I think he added value. And I always talk about the window of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he showed everybody. First of all, he exceeded expectations with his individual play. So right there, he will add value. Nobody knew if he could really play playing with the Wildcats because he barely played. So to see him, what did he average? 10 points per game?
Mm-hmm. A little bit more. It was really good.
Just a legit backup in this league. And he gave everybody he played against problems on the defensive end. Why would you not want that as a legit backup coming off your bench as a point guard?
Yeah,
I say he's out of there.
But why would he go to be a backup when he's a starter?
He was a starter by default. He played by default. Plus, there was a lot of issues with the team. So for your mental sake, why would you not go somewhere else that's way more stable?
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, he needs to get a pay rise, for one. Now, obviously, he's only going to get a percentage of whatever his contract says. Of course, it's not going to be as much. That's the state of play for everybody. But he has the opportunity now to increase the value of the contract that he previously had. And he needs to explore free agency in order to do that. Of course, I think he would most likely start for Illawarra next season.
Is that a discussion?
They bring in an import point guard. He plays the two. He can guard the elite point guards in the league. And so you don't have to necessarily get that in the guy that you bring over as your import one. You could have, a guy like John Robertson, for example, next to Sunday Deck. That would work out quite well. But you have to explore free agency, Cam, in order to get that bigger value contract.
Agreed. Not saying that he should just sign the contract tonight, but for one, I don't think it's even a discussion where Illawarra are and how well he played last year that he wouldn't start. I think he's the starting guard.
It's a discussion. You could start Angus Glover alongside an import too. If the Illawarra Hawks sign DJ Newble, you start Angus Glover at the one. Sunday Debt comes off the bench.
Well, I guess that's part of the conversations that he might be having with Illawarra as well. I believe that if you're Illawarra and where we sit, and in the uncertain financial times in which everyone, not just pro sports leagues, find ourselves, I think that starting and being able to maybe get slightly value out of Sunday Deck. Froling's an interesting one. You might have just given a little heads up to what we're going to talk about in a moment, but Big Froling, Homicide, I know you're a fan. What do you think of him?
I like Froling, super talented. I think right now with all of this time, he'll be coming back healthy, hungry, and looking to prove that he is a legitimate young superstar to make it in this league. I think he's going to add value. I think he'll go. I think both of those guys go and Glover stays.
All right. You mentioned DJ Newble. This is an interesting conversation because the 3 imports go down to 2 for NBL 21. So it leads us into the Cairns Taipans, which kind of is connected to this conversation for at least 2 of us, judging by what Liam just had to say. Hashtag NBL Overtime to get involved. This is going to be an ongoing conversation because they were outstanding, Cairns. Outstanding. They were brilliant. All 3 were great. Machado was, a revelation. Cam Oliver got better as the year went on. And DJ Newble, without the injuries, although he had a couple of points last year where he struggled with that shoulder, had another great year, all NBL team, defensive player of the year, all the rest of it. But now they've got to go to 2. Homicide, I'm going to start with you. What 2 do you keep?
I don't think they can afford to keep 2. The price went up for all of them. Scott Machado, the floor general, let's just say he's going to be there. DJ Newbill being a defensive player of the year and having a career season in the NBL. The NBL is a global respected elite league. Countries all over the world are going to want his services. He is a legitimate 2-way player. I believe, and this would be probably his biggest hit salary-wise as far as securing a bag is concerned. He's going to secure a bag. I believe he's not coming back, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe both of those imports are not coming back.
Well, what about in the hypothetical situation that you could, if you were the Taipans, get a deal done and you had to choose between the three?
You secure Scott Machado and new build goes.
Ooh.
You secure you secure Cam Oliver. If you can, that's what you should do. If you can.
Yeah.
You secure a legitimate scorer in the front court and you secure the best point guard in the league.
Are we on the same page, Liam, by keeping Machado and Newble?
No, keeping Machado. No, new build goes. You keep Machado and you keep.
Cam disagrees with you, Corey. I am so torn.
It's tough. It's not an easy conversation.
Keep Machado, of course. He's the floor general. He's the man that made that all run. But Newble was so good last season. And you've got to look at this and you go, all right, well, it was clear that the three of them and the blueprint that we had, we had Quat Noy and Goulding, and that all was great. But it was really the trio of imports that we had that brought us to the brink of a grand final appearances. And we know how valuable Scott Machado was. And you got to go, who was more crucial? Was it DJ Newble as the defensive player of the year, all NBL second team? Or was it Cam Oliver, up there leading the league in blocks, pulling down boards, inside, outside threat at the 5 spot? That is such a tough decision to make if you are forced to make it. Now, your negotiations, who wants what to come back, plays a big role. The market plays a role. Can we replace – we're not going to be able to replace DJ Newble with a local at that level probably, but are there more of his types in the marketplace? Can Mirko Jeric play some more minutes? Who can play more minutes? Mirko Jeric in that spot or Nate Jawai in that other spot? Can we get Harry Froling? Can we get Sam Froling? What guys are available in the free agency market? It's such a tough call. I probably tend to lean towards Corey's perspective as a starting point. So I got an elite PG, an elite big, and let's fill out the rest of the roster from there. I've got wings and guys who can shoot it in Jeric, Noy, and Deng. But there are a lot of other factors that come into place. And whichever way it falls, if they do get 2 and 1 is out there, boy, teams are going to come from left, right, and center at that other guy.
Think about this. Sorry, Cam. Add on what you're saying, Liam, you're absolutely right. All 3 of these guys played such a huge role in the success of the team. And any 2 you take, the odd man out, is either way you look at it. You know what I mean? You want to go with a wing or a center. You want to go with a backcourt. It's tough either way. They were that good and played such a pivotal role this season. But in this league, we see in order to be successful, you have to have we know this, a point guard is everything. It's monumental. And your center position. Those are the key spots for successful teams in this league.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you look at the Wildcats last season as the champions.
Yeah.
Was that more Cotton and White? Or was that more Cotton and Plumlee? Because when the Kings went to that triangle and 2, they had
Nick
a man.
K, baby. I'm just saying a 4-5. Big and a little is my point.
No, that's a fair call. Yeah.
Right.
That's much more. It's Nick K.
But, I didn't want to bring it up. I'm glad you did.
Oh, thank you, Liam.
Game 3, whoever wins, 100% out of the 100% of the times, win the championship in Game 3. That's what the grand finals. And you said Miles Plumlee. I didn't. Miles Plumlee came to play and shut Bogut down.
Yeah,
and put in work on the offensive end.
But
you
the
can
Kings
hold
were
your head
winning
all
Game
you
4.
want, Cam.
But the Kings were winning Game 4. We know this.
Yo, you know what? I'm not doing this right now.
Thank you. Let's not do that.
Okay.
I'm not doing it.
I do agree, too, that it's an absolute flip of the coin. I'd keep Newble, I'd keep Machado, and I'd try and work on Sam Froling to try and join Cairns, and it'd be a different look at it. I don't know if you can fit Sam and Harry in, and Quat Noy's only going to get better, you'd think. Injury last year, and then Goulding had a really good year, considering he'd fallen out of favour and out of form at Adelaide. So there's a way to look at it, but whoever out of the 3 imports, if it is out of these 3 who were great last year, going to be stiff. All right.
Whoa. Out of form and out of favour in Adelaide?
Goulding didn't have a good year the year before.
Jeez.
He had a great year when they made the grand final, but not the one following that.
I don't know. He went to Cairns not because Adelaide didn't want him. He just was in search of a bigger role.
All right, I'll say out of form. He did not have a good season with Goulding following that breakout grand final series.
Nah, he didn't.
I'll take out of favour out of it. They probably still wanted him, but he didn't play. What were your thoughts? All right.
We'll roll with that, Cam.
Starting an NBL franchise from scratch.
We're on your ass, Cam.
Hey,
we on your ass, Cam.
I'm just like, hey, you just bring that energy, fam. All right. Who wants to start here? Starting an NBL franchise from scratch, which we are going to see in the not too distant future with the Tasmanian team. Who wants to start?
I'll start. But are we talking?
Oh, mate, hey, there are no rules on the side.
Are under contract or free agents?
This is the best thing about this
question. Or do we just say anybody?
You take it whatever way you want to take it.
Okay. I would go with a guy like Jock Landale.
Because?
How come?
Super young star, super talented, and he's a big that can stretch the floor and shoot the three. Rebounds, runs the floor. He can do everything on the court.
Awesome. Enjoy.
And he's a local. And he's a local.
And he's gone the following year.
I mean, there were no restrictions with this.
He's starting a franchise.
Yeah, but I mean, why is he going the following year? Why is he going the following year?
You can go with whatever you want. Landale.
Yeah, we just throw him a nice, a nice bag. That's what I'm saying. Are we talking about guys that played in the NBL now, or are there any restrictions with who I can take?
No restrictions, but keeping in mind they could, as Liam did allude to, they might up and leave. So you got to maybe factor that in. But there's no restrictions about who you're going to offer the money to.
Okay, I'll probably go with a man. I don't know. I'm starting with a center. That's for
Liam,
sure.
What do you got? Who you got?
Who you got?
Corey, you're not starting with two-way Magnay?
Well, Magnay's already he's with Brisbane, though. We can't take the guy, right? That's why I asked. That's why I asked,
Mate, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We can do whatever the hell we want. It's a hypothetical discussion.
No, but he's signed. We can't take guys already. Or else I would have said him.
I'm taking someone who's signed.
How?
Because it's a hypothetical.
Okay.
No rules.
I'm going with Mitch Creek then.
Yeah, there we go. That's the man.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Because, look, hey, you know what? I was a part of these conversations for real about 12, 18 months ago when Tommy Greer sought my counsel early on in the piece. So, all right, well, let's talk foundation pieces. I'm starting a franchise here. What do you think? And we were both on the very same page. That man was Mitch Creek.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's got to be a culture guy, a guy who drives that work ethic. You look at a guy like Damian Martin in Perth or Mika Vukona in New Zealand. And when you can combine, like those two had, when you can combine the culture with elite play and a guy who's going to play major minutes, now you have a recipe for success to build on. And Mitch Creek is every little bit of that. Yeah. Let's not forget, he only just turned 28. He has some enormous years ahead of him. And I think they're in a great spot with him as their foundation piece. And I think another guy is Nick Kay as well, who falls into that category. Not the same type of personality as Mitch Creek, but sets the tone from a cultural perspective. And, one of it.
Two-time champion, two-time first team All NBL. Soon to be in line to be a boomer, going to Japan next year.
Couple of things here. Firstly, we grilled you every Tuesday about the foundation player the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix might be looking at, and now we find out you were chatting with, as we all assumed, and helping and doing a wonderful job with Tommy. So there's that. Matthew Dellavedova. He had a contract, and of course, interesting situation with some uncertainty around the NBA. He's obviously played some good minutes when he's gone back to Cleveland, and situation when he's gone there has always been great for Australia, as we know. Only 29. And you talk about the culture. I don't think there's any denying that. But I also think from a marketing perspective, and this is something the NBL has got a lot better in, or at least from a media landscape and profile in the last couple of years, we've seen more of Mitch Creek in mainstream news. Chris Goulding's carried that for Melbourne United for a majority of it. You see a lot of it, Damien Martin in particular in Perth. So we're seeing more of it as time goes on. But Matthew Dellavedova is an instant. He rolls on in here to whatever franchise. I'm not saying he's going to dominate the league, but he is that starting point guard which you'll be able to match up on what is traditionally an imported spot. He'll be able to defend. I think give him 10% of every jersey that Dellavedova sells with the logo on it, so you can work your way outside of the traditional salary cap, make him a marquee player. Now, I always apologise. I don't know anything about players' personal lives, so I know he's had a new baby. I'm not sure if his wife's Australian or American, so that always has to come into it in some small part as well. But, you talk about the Olympics, you talk about his ability to be able to continue to grow the Boomers brand as well. To have him on our shore always helps. That's where I'm going. I
like it. I like how Cam and I are both like trying to build something, and Corey's like, I'm winning in year one.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Straight up.
Straight to the top.
Nah,
Hashtag NBL Overtime to get involved.
Delhi in the NBL would be awesome too, though. But do you think he would want to come home right now? He's still young. He's still got legs on him. I mean, a lot of legs on him. He's only 29, like you stated. So will there be opportunity for him in the NBA still? I believe that there will be.
Yeah.
So this is the conversation, and no doubt he will probably end up on a team. In fact, I'd say he'll probably end up on a team. But the conversation when you get to 29 or 30, and it, financial, as we've touched on, homicide goes a long way into it. But it's also like, hey man, do you want to play?
Nah, he's set financially. He's set.
I'd be like, set. Hey, Delhi.
He got that peak deal. Y'all forget about the sneaker deal.
Peak deal.
Don't forget about the sneaker deal.
He could be like, because he got that 4-year deal at Milwaukee. I think it was $12 million a year when that salary cap went nuts in 2016. Be like, hey, Delhi, we know that you can be on a roster in the NBA, be at Cleveland, be it else. We understand that. But how about, man, you want to come back and you want to play you're the man here. You're the starting point guard. You can play 35 minutes a game. At some point, the conversation about sitting there and having the best seat in the house and playing minutes. I'm not saying he's just going to sit there and never get on the court, compared to coming back, building something, being at home and playing 32, 35 minutes a game, I think would appeal to some people. Now, it may not be appealing to Delhi, but at some point you want to play some minutes. That's what we all want to do, is play the game we love. So that's what I would try to appeal with.
I like it.
It's the wishful thinking.
So where do we all end up? Where did you end up?
How about you give him some ownership?
You threw out 11 names, man. Give us a name.
You know what happens on NBL Overtime when Cam feels like he's onto something good? He likes to linger.
Linger.
You know what I mean? And we just linger on the point for a little while.
Where do we end? Hashtag NBL Overtime to get involved.
You win, Cam.
Creaky?
You win.
No, I wouldn't say. Yeah, you're right. I win. All right, let's get down.
I'm going with Chris Goulding.
Okay, love it. All right, let's get into Liam Santamarea's idea.
Where is Chris Goulding signing next season? I'm going to ask that on Twitter.
Are you asking it here on NBL Overtime?
I mean, I'm just talking to my guys on NBL Overtime, but I'm still going to ask it on Twitter.
So where do you think he's going to sign?
I think Chris Goulding to sign. I'm not sure.
I think this is
interesting times to be a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fascinating question because
what do you got, Liam?
When Melbourne signed Mitch McCarron initially to a 3-year deal, it was a really intriguing decision because he left the Taipans saying he's going to go over and he wants to explore going on to Europe, and then all of a sudden it was like, well, Melbourne placed a call or his agency placed a call, or I'm not sure which happened first, but all of a sudden Mitch McCarron became available to sign back in the NBL. And my understanding from Melbourne United was the decision was, how does he fit? How does it work? We've got Casper Ware, we've got Chris Goulding. And the decision was, you know what, he's so good, let's sign him and make it work. Now, he signed a 3-year deal. As part of that conversation was, he needs to play some point guard. That was part of what I understand how it went down. And I think he's going to do a lot of that this coming season, having alongside Shea Illy perhaps in that backcourt. But Melbourne had to pull some strings and come to the table to keep Mitch McCarron ahead of this opt-in, opt-out deadline. And as I alluded to on the show last week, where does that leave them in terms of their capacity to re-sign Chris Goulding? Because Chris Goulding needs to get paid. Chris Goulding needs to continue to earn. He is not about to take a massive cut right now. So either Melbourne comes to the party, and are they able to, having done what they've done with Mitch McCarron, or another team will get that opportunity, or he's going to look elsewhere overseas.
Well, with that, with as strong as how you just came in and said Chris Goulding needs to get paid, I'm just going to run with he's going overseas.
I think he'll stay.
I mean,
why is it so awkwardly quiet?
Because Melbourne, if he stays, Melbourne are going to have a lot invested in Mitch McCarron and Chris Goulding.
Mm-hmm. Which they did invest a fair bit when they bought Mitch McCarron in, as you touched on. And I think it's all about probably getting another championship. They obviously made that grand final with Mitch McCarron that first year he joined. Last year, fell a little short in the semi-finals. I would be stunned if that is bundled out now. Now, I don't have no idea of the financial situation of the club with how the NBL is obviously sitting. Free agency, as Homicide touched on, it's an interesting time for any free agent around the world in any sport to be looking at, and you got health and safety also, and countries you can travel to and restrictions and all the rest of it. So, but I also think if you're Melbourne United, you've already gone all in. You don't just strip it all back now if there's a way to keep Chris Goulding on that roster, who had a pretty good year last year, coming off a pretty good World Cup, and then had a pretty good year at Melbourne United as well.
Is Shea Ellie is Shea Ellie locked in for next season?
Yes, he is. All right. We'll give you a week. Fire some stuff on Twitter, and we'll reconvene maybe this conversation next week. All right. Woj obviously has his own podcast, speaks a great deal, as we know, and we know that the G League Academy is being set up there in Southern California, and that's in part to the NCAA different times not being able to get out of their own way, but also the NBL Next Stars program, which, of course, with LaMelo Ball and RJ Hampton last year, was able to steal two of their high-profile guys. So the NBA and the G League have been able to work out a way. Now, Woj just sort of said, and I quote here, this leads into Liam's idea. They, the players in the G League Pathway program, might play national teams who might be touring different countries at different parts of the year. I was told they might go to Australia, where there's an NBA academy, as we all know, maybe play some exhibition games there and stay there for a while and train and move around. And so much of the G League Academy and the pathway is to ready these players for the professional ranks for their 1 year out of high school, which leads into Liam Santa Maria's idea. What do you got for us?
NBL needs to get involved in a big way. If this G League team, Jalen Green, Isaiah Todd, and the group that they put together, if that team comes to Australia to hang out at the NBA Global Academy and train for a little while and whatnot, let's get some NBL teams playing against them while they're here. The NBA is going to get a broadcast deal in place for that team. They want that team on ESPN in the States as often as possible. They want Jalen Green and Isaiah Todd, these guys, to be as recognizable as guys playing for Duke and Kentucky and so on and so forth. What an opportunity to showcase the league and to get some NBL teams to play against them, smack them around, and make a bit of a statement. And even more than that, here's what I would love to see. If that team did come to Australia, I'd love to see the NBL put together like an under 25 Future Forces All-Star squad to go up against them. So I just you could go under 23. I plugged under 25 out of the air. This is a team I've put together that it could kind of resemble, right? So you can start with Josh Giddey, Mojave King, Quatnoy, Finn Delaney. People forget how young he is, 25, and Will Magnay. Got a bunch of guys there as reserves. Angus Glover, Luke Travers from Perth, McVeigh, the Froling boys, Jordan Hunter in Sydney. And then look at those other guys. We wait to see whether they enter the league. Guys like Vasiljevic, White, Jack Salt, Yanni Wetzel. How much fun would it be to see this kind of squad go up against that G League Academy team on ESPN in the States and give our guys a massive amount of exposure?
Be great. Firstly, I'm shaking my head just quickly because, but you did clarify this. Like our man Yanni Wetzel, who is, of course, NBL Overtime's own, is in that squad if, in fact, he comes to the NBL. Do we agree?
Well,
do we agree?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, thank you. I just
Johnny
want to make
Winston.
sure. We're
Oh,
good.
God.
All right. Brilliant idea. Brilliant idea. And you touched on it. The NBA aren't just plunking these kids in California and saying, hey, there's different bonuses. And they also want to make sure that they are readying themselves to turn professional, which is what the NBL Next Stars conversation would have been when talking to Ball and to Hampton and all the rest of it. So going for outstanding idea. Because there used to be a Future Forces game.
Yes, they did.
Now, obviously, with NBL Rewind, we're going back and watching some old school stuff on NBL TV, and there are some available, which I'm assuming, based on the years, was leading up to that 23 and under Australian World Championship. I'm not sure if it was a direct correlation or just a massive coincidence, but they did have that Future Forces game in the middle of 90s a couple of times. So there is no doubt, because so much of that conversation, Homicide, last year was all the scouts that flew over here and got to see Will Magnay do his thing. Got to see Finn Delaney do his thing. You know, there were people over here watching Josh Giddey. So if the G League comes down here and these kids, they're going to have scouts following them, see how they travel, see how they adapt to different hostile environments. And all of a sudden, all these Australians who are a part of the team going up against them are under the eye of the NBA scouts. So it does work beautifully. I think it's a great idea, Liam. And I assume, considering the last conversation you had with Tommy Greer, got the marquee man Mitch Creek to Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, so this will be happening.
Let's make this happen.
I'm with you.
Because, hey, if they come over to hang out at the Global Academy and they play games against the guys at the Global Academy, if this team is Jalen Green, Isaiah Todd, a couple of other elite prospects and a couple of G League veterans, like those 17-year-olds aren't going to give them the kind of competition that they need. So we bring this squad out, roll them out, massive exposure for those kids. We've got to make this happen.
Hashtag NBL Overtime to get involved. Homicide, I know you like it.
This is very interesting to me. When idols become rivals is what I call this. We saw the R.J. Hampton Melo Ball effect, the success that they had. It was a dice roll for those guys of that magnitude to come here and have the success that they had, right? NBA, Adam Silverman, they like, listen, first of all, I'm jealous of it. And second of all, you guys are getting way too much attention. We need to do something about this. He and Sharif Abdul-Rahim, head of the G League, sit down, look, this is what we got to do. We got to pay these guys to keep them on U.S. soil. Now we did that. We're going to have them come to Australia, train, and play games. That's not crazy to you guys? Like, we're going to want you to play games against them, because eventually games will happen because they're here. And we're going to keep them in Australia to train. But they belong to us because, you know, we're going to keep them on U.S. soil. That's not.
But then they're not going to. They're not going to live here for 3 months at a time. And there's an opportunity. I'm assuming the Spanish Liam Santa Maria is coming up maybe with a similar idea as to get, you know, this particular G League team into Europe as well. And that's going to be the big push from the NBA and the G League to be able to get these kids to be able to be a part of that program rather than go and play college ball. So they're not based in Australia, but
the other thing you could look at with this idea is that if this is an under 25 NBL Future Forces team, this could potentially include imports. This kind of squad from last season would involve guys like Jay Tate, Melo Trimble, the kind of exposure that they would get going up against Jalen Green and Isaiah Todd and those kind of players as well. So you can workshop the idea, but I think it has legs.
I agree. Hashtag NBL Overtime if you're at home to get involved. I like it. So are we going under 25? Or could we got to definitively find an age under 25?
I think so.
How long would you think that team would stay in Australia? That's what the point I would love to, I want to know. How long you think? A couple of weeks. Oh, okay. That ain't no big deal. But it's just still interesting to me. Like, we want you to come down here. Like, you don't have another global academy somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Like, why here?
Well, because our NBL Global Academy here, run by Marty Clark and Adam Capon, is very highly regarded. Very highly regarded. The NBA loves the work that they've been doing there, and the guys like Mojave King, Josh Giddey, Tamari Wigness, when they go over and they play in these showcase events in the States, our Global Academy impresses.
Right.
So
we don't want you playing in the NBL, but we want you to train in Australia.
All right. We're going to keep pushing this. Liam Santa Maria's idea. If you like it, let us know. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, NBL TV, Liam's private Twitter, DMs, and Instagram, all the rest of it. All right, we're going to wrap it up. Podcast. Gibbo goes one-on-one with his housemate, Mitch Creek. I'm looking forward to this one. I don't know what's going to come out of it in an NBL rewind. Liam and I hopefully, we're trying to get hold of the GOAT, Andrew Gaze, but that game at the Snake Pit all those years ago, I think it was 1991, highest scoring game in NBL history. And if you like fundamental backdoor cuts, you're going to love this game from Andrew Gaze. That's NBL Rewind.
How much Gaze hit him with? 50?
He only hit him with 54, which is a little bit less than you would think. 59 is it? Sorry, I thought it was 59. Guys telling me in my ear. It's 59. Either way, not his highest scoring game in history, remarkably. And, of course,
oh my God,
showstoppers and, the first game for all these debutants as well. So jump on NBL socials over the next couple of weeks. It's going to be huge. We're going to be back this time next week. # NBL Overtime. Boys, thank you. We'll see you next week.
See you later. Peace.